Iran has fallen out with China, loudly declaring it will wipe out Israel and refusing to recognize the two-state solution. But Khamenei overlooked one thing: if Iran keeps stubbornly sticking to its own views, it will truly have no friends left. According to reports from the Stanim news agency, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard recently issued a statement directly calling the two-state solution promoted by the international community an evil slavery, and even claimed they would take the path of resistance to wipe Israel off the map. But does Iran really have the capability to do that? Take the massive battle in June as an example. Israel launched the Rising Lion operation and completely wiped out Iran's top military leadership. The Revolutionary Guard's Commander-in-Chief Salami and the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces Bagheri, and a whole bunch of nuclear scientists were all killed in the explosions. Iran's nuclear facilities were also blown to pieces. Although Iran fired hundreds of missiles in retaliation, which looked pretty impressive, the outcome was completely different. According to information released by Israel, of the 520 ballistic missiles Iran launched, only 25 actually hit the ground, the rest were intercepted. That hit rate is all bark and no bite. Besides, Iran has already been abandoned by its own little brothers. Hamas is getting crushed by Israel in Gaza and can barely lift its head, and Hezbollah in Lebanon has also been severely weakened. The Houthis are still making trouble in Yemen, but the impact they can have is extremely limited. Even those Arab countries are no longer willing to mess around with Iran. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, those wealthy nations, are preparing to establish diplomatic relations with Israel and are busy making money. Who has time to cooperate with Iran in fighting a war? And the two-state solution isn't something new either. As early as 1947, the United Nations proposed the partition plan for Palestine, which was to let Jews and Arabs each establish their own country and coexist peacefully. Now, 147 countries around the world recognize the state of Palestine, and even China firmly supports the two-state solution. This is clearly the trend of the times, yet Iran insists on going against it, saying it will never recognize it. They even say Israel should be wiped off the map. Although their words sound tough, their actions fall short. Iran alone probably can't achieve this. But there's a reason why Iran keeps making such harsh statements. Because the situation inside Iran is really bad right now. The economy is suffering under sanctions, and the standard of living for ordinary people has plummeted. The government needs to find an external enemy to divert attention from domestic problems, and Israel has become the perfect scapegoat. That's why they shout these unrealistic slogans, like wanting to completely wipe out Israel. Isn't that self-contradictory? How could such an extreme stance ever gain support from the international community? Even those countries that sympathize with Palestine are now unwilling to follow Iran's reckless lead. Because everyone knows that just talking tough won't solve any problems. What Iran is doing now is actually holding back the Palestinian people. The international community had finally made some progress in promoting the two-state solution, but with Iran stirring things up like this, it's created new obstacles for the peace process. In the end, it's still the ordinary Palestinian people who suffer the most. Moreover, Iran's tough rhetoric isn't backed by any real strength. Right now, Iran's domestic affairs are a mess, its military power has been severely weakened by Israeli strikes, and its nuclear facilities have been pretty much destroyed. To still talk tough at a time like this really shows a lack of self-awareness. If Iran truly wanted to help the Palestinian people, it should support the two-state solution instead of just shouting about war and violence. Resorting to violence won't solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Only through peaceful negotiations can the Palestinian people truly have their own country. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard's rejection of the two-state solution this time is nothing but political posturing aimed at diverting attention from domestic issues. But this approach only addresses the symptoms, not the root cause, and in the end, it's Iran itself that will suffer. If they keep stirring things up like this, Iran is bound to be completely isolated by the international community. By then, let alone helping Palestine, they won't even be able to protect themselves.